So tinker with this a little bit. This is the same thing. I'm just going to drop the limits of summation. This is n factorial over, now expand the factorial on bottom here. This is n plus 2 times n plus 1 times n factorial. Right? Because a factorial means 5 times 4 times 3. So that allows our n factorials to cancel out. So this is 1 over n plus 1. And, oh, I did it out of order, n plus 2 on here. So the power in the denominator is n squared. So what WebAssign wants you to compare it to, b sub n, is going to be 1 over n squared. This is a p-series that we know is convergent, right? So we can work with that. So let's see, that's question 7 here. B sub n, we want to compare it to 1 over n squared because of that algebra rewrite that we just did. And so when you're considering whether a sub n or b sub n are greater than or less than each other, think about the numerator here. Maybe it would help if we expand a little bit. This is n squared plus 3n plus 2. Right, so the denominator is always going to be bigger in this series than in this series, in this sequence that we're summing. This sequence always has a bigger denominator. That means our a sub n, the sequence we're working with and we're going to evaluate a series for, a sub n always has a bigger denominator. That means a sub n is always going to be smaller, right? Because when this one's at 1 over 8, wait, it won't be. When this one's at 1 over 16, this one's going to be something bigger, 16 plus 12 plus 2. The bottom is going to be bigger. So this is always going to be smaller. A sub n is always going to be, a sub n is smaller than b sub n. And if you wanted to, you could write out a few terms. Don't be afraid of doing that. It's not like a super calculus approach to it, because it's not like, considering all possible values, but write out the first few terms of a sub n, write out the first few terms of b sub n. And you'll see a sub n is always going to be smaller than b sub n. So since b sub n is a convergent p-series, right, and a sub n is always less than b sub n for all n, the series is convergent, right? A convergent series is one where the terms of the sequence are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So if a sub n is already smaller than b sub n, then a sub n's terms must also be getting smaller and smaller, even more so, right? So by the comparison test, this should be convergent.